Winning is easy, governing is harder. Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote those words for George Washington to say in the Broadway sensation Hamilton. And as we speak, House Speaker Paul Ryan is living the reality of those words. Governing is hard. It's very hard, especially with a fractured GOP caucus with lots of different ideas, but no consensus yet on how to keep the GOP campaign promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. This morning, Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price was on Capitol Hill presenting a united front with the GOP leadership. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Trump says he's flipping Republicans, and according to him, the House Republicans he met with, who were opposed to the health care plan, are now on board.
I want everyone to know I'm 100% behind this. I also want everyone to know that all of these no's or potential no's are all yeses. Every single person sitting in this room is now a yes.
Okay.
Just like that.
Let's clarify who was in that room, okay? It's a little bit inside baseball, but there's the Freedom Caucus, which is really the hardliner caucus in the House.
Right.
And those are the folks who are the true holdouts. Correct. These are folks who sort of relish voting no. Okay, he was talking to a different caucus within the House GOP, which is conservative, but it's not sort of as recalcitrant, shall we say, as the Freedom Caucus.
Right.
Not all the folks in that room when they entered the door were no's. In fact, I'd say very few of them were no's.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of spin there on the baseball.
Well, not just that. If you want to get into this, calling out the reality here, our Deirdre Walsh is reporting that they did make changes to the bill, the White House and the House Republican leadership dealing with Medicaid issues, but that those changes were made before going into the Oval Office.
Yeah.
They were agreed on last night, and the president, I guess in some ways understandably, but within his character, took credit for it.
Yeah, and probably not a huge surprise. Now, the changes that they're discussing right now are all around the margins. They are not at the heart of the concerns of a lot of these conservative members who want to either move up the deadline for getting rid of the Medicaid expansion, either get rid of those tax credits that be given to people who could purchase health coverage, or significantly shrink those, which some conservatives view as an entitlement. If you were to do what the conservatives want, then you're going to lose what the moderates want.
Exactly.
The Tuesday group, that centrist caucus within the House Republican Conference, is influential itself. So that is the fine line that Paul Ryan is having to deal with right now. I mentioned Charlie Denton in the last segment. I also asked him about moving up the Medicaid time frame. He said, you're going to lose the Tuesday group. You're going to lose me if you do that. And that is why, even if Donald Trump says that all of these guys are voting yes, a lot of them are still voting no. There's a very good chance this does not get out of the House next week unless some of these guys just decide to vote to move it forward because they want to keep the process going.
Let's play one of those still no votes. This is before today's event, but the feeling that he has and other members of the House Freedom Caucus have on this bill have not changed. This is Raul Labrador yesterday.
Most people are opposed to the bill, and it's interesting because it's from both the right and the left. There's no natural constituency for this bill, which is one of the most frustrating things about this bill, because we're trying to figure out who exactly it's trying to appease, because the left is really mad about it, the right is really mad about it, the middle is really mad about it, and so far it just seems to be a constituency of one, which is Washington insiders.
And that's so revealing, by the way, because that shows that right now, Labrador's assumption is that this is Ryan care, not Trump care. What I mean by that is this. He wants to run statewide in 2018 in a very conservative state, Idaho. He's not looking at a long House career. He's looking at a statewide campaign. He's looking at a primary in Idaho. Right now, in March of 17, his assumption is the safe place to be in a conservative primary in a conservative state is being against the bill that Donald Trump is for. The GOP has got to reframe this bill to make it Trump's bill. Otherwise, I don't see how they ever get it out of Congress.
I think it's too late for that. But I want to, before, Molly, I want to hear from you on this. I want to play also something that Paul Ryan said this morning about how he's trying to make it not just a constituency of one.
He just worked with them, and they're all on board because they, with the president and the rest of us, have been talking about improvements to this bill. So those improvements are being made as we go through this process. It's basically more federalism, making sure that we respect the fact that states can experiment and tailor Medicaid to meet their needs.
Well, and you know, this whole idea of is it Ryan care or is it Trump care is really interesting, because what you see talk radio and Breitbart and a lot of conservatives doing is trying to turn this into Paul Ryan's bill and take Trump out of it. And while Trump, you know, we just had him on tape saying I'm 100% behind the bill, he has not gone out and publicly made the case in detail in the way that presidents do when they're campaigning for their own legislation for why this bill, why House Republicans should vote for it. And so there is a feeling that there's always a possibility, if this thing gets too hot, if the potato gets too hot or the bill becomes too unpopular, Trump could just drop it and leave Paul Ryan holding the bag.
Amy, let me just ask you this, just to sort of counter the notion that there's not a natural constituency for this. There's generally not a natural constituency for compromise. That's why it's compromise. You're taking parts of this and parts of this and you're putting together. It's called the art of legislating and, to go back to the beginning, governing.
Yes.
So, you know,
but that is a great question, and I think this is the fundamental challenge in this new era that we're in, the Trump era, which is Donald Trump did not come from the party. He is not of the party. He is like a skin graft that you put on the body, and right now and through 2016 it's stuck. But we don't know that it's going to continue to stick. So the fundamental challenge isn't just within the conference. It is that you have a nationalist, populist, guy who didn't come from establishment Republican politics coming against an establishment that is also many parts, that includes Paul Ryan, that includes the Freedom Caucus, that includes Tuesday Group, that includes the sort of fiscal conservatives, and all of that's the bigger challenge. If it were just this one pot, that would be called legislating. Now you're talking about fundamental differences in their views of the world.
And this was a real miscalculation, I think, from Paul Ryan himself, who believed that he had gotten buy-in from his conference last year when he built that so-called Better Way agenda to campaign on. But really what that was just a broad brush view. It was a messaging document, and certainly people signed on to it. But when you get into the finer tuned details of legislation, when it actually has an impact, people will revolt. And that's what happened here. And they cut this deal largely behind closed doors, and a lot of people felt excluded.
And as you're discussing that, you know, it's one thing when it's a political document. He's dealing with a caucus that has, the majority of them have never been in office when they've been in charge.
A lot of these folks were not there when Bush was president. All they've done is oppose. It's different having to actually govern and get stuff done. And also, you've got a wide gulf, Dana, between a largely ideological House, an ideological pure House. They're free market conservatives, and a president who is nominally a Republican. He ran on universal health care. He ran as a nationalist, not a conservative, promising we're going to take care of our folks. And every time, by the way, he's pressed, he sounds more like candidate Trump than President Trump. When he's off the cuff, like he was this week on a different network, and he's asked about this, he said, if we don't take care of our folks, I'm not going to sign it.
All right. Stand by, everybody. We want to take